We're here at Malone House on International Day of Persons with Disabilities, celebrating and providing information for employers on workplace adjustments. Employers Forum for Disabilities and the Equality Commission for Northern Ireland are working together in this project, and we are very grateful that Catherine Casserly has taken time out of her busy schedule from Cloisters Chambers in London to give us an update on the most recent case law as it relates to reasonable adjustments in the workplace, and specifically around sick absence issues. We're also very grateful that Sherelle from the National Autism Society has joined us this morning in terms of reasonable adjustments for people with autism within the workplace. We're also delighted to have Dominic McCanny from Cookstown Council to explain how Cookstown Council have adopted a policy on sick absence which includes disabled people.
I'll explain the definition of disability. The basic definition is that you have to have a physical or a mental impairment which has a substantial and long-term adverse effect on your ability to carry out normal day-to-day activities. And that basic definition is supplemented by schedules in the Act which explain, for example, what long-term is. So it has to last 12 months or be likely to last 12 months. Normal day-to-day activities cover a range of things. So, for example, mobility, the ability to carry or lift everyday items. When you look at whether or not someone is able to carry out normal day-to-day activities, what you do have to do is to disregard any medication that they're taking, for example, or any aids that they have.
Well, some of the examples of how employers have provided reasonable adjustments for people with disabilities includes an example of a manual worker who actually developed a back condition, and he was finding his own job very difficult, and even with adjustments he wasn't able to continue. So rather than let that person go, they looked for another vacancy in the organisation, and actually found a vacancy in administration, in reception area, and with a little bit of support and training on their computer systems, they were able to transfer that person into a vacancy and keep a very valuable person in employment. So it worked out well for both the organisation and the employee. The approach that Employers for Disability would advise organisations in terms of determining reasonable adjustments is firstly have a protocol in place so that everybody knows what the reasonable adjustment procedure is, and everybody knows then what to expect. And it's standardised then across the organisation.
Well, we know that people with autism face many barriers when they try to enter the workplace. First of all, even the advertisements as they go out usually stipulate things like good communication skills. For a person with autism, they will often rule themselves out because one of the difficulties that they have is with social communication. Often as well, the difficulties are encountered when we get to interview stage. People with autism find it very difficult to understand the concept of selling themselves. They may just give yes or no answers and really not elaborate on the skills and experience that they have. Well, employers that are good at employing people with autism are usually those employers who are good at managing the general workplace. What you really need to do is to make adjustments for people with autism within the workplace. So these will include things like being very clear about what is expected of them, issuing good instructions, both written and oral, taking time out to support the individual and to manage them, and sometimes putting in place things like mentoring schemes.
Our Director of Corporate Services takes personal responsibility for managing disability absence. So we have a central unified system that all employees who are off as a result of disability-related illness are spoken to by the Director of Corporate Services to ensure standardisation in the process. We find out that this works really, really well, and that the employees know that the Cookstown District Council care for them as valued members, and also that they themselves return to work and contribute very successfully to the organisation.
The Equality Commission can help employers meet its reasonable adjustment duty in a number of ways. Firstly, it can advise them and tell them of what those duties actually are, what they need to do under the legislation. They can also then give them practical support in actually implementing specific reasonable adjustments. For example, we can give advice on specific adjustments that might relate to wheelchair users. And finally, we can share best practice with employers, so we can show them what other employers have done to deal with similar situations, which have not only met their legal requirements, but also have helped them to promote best practice. If you're a small business owner, we recognise that in the current economic climate, things are very difficult for small business. They have many different legal duties that they're subject to, and we acknowledge that equality is very complex. So basically, if you're a small employer today, we hope there are a number of things you can get from attending the event. You can find out about our recently launched small business strategy, which is designed to help small businesses meet their legal requirements. You can listen to the experts giving guidance on the issue of disability, which again we acknowledge is a very difficult issue for small businesses to deal with. And also then you can get access today to the various publications that we have,